We can still use this to find out information about a car that you may not have this set up for, and this is what we're going to see. Intake air temperature, and that one there, airflow rate from mass airflow sensor, is 0.3 pounds per minute. And this one here is quite interesting. Number of warm-ups since DTC's cleared. So if you're actually buying a car, it means that somebody's actually just cleared the faults. I bought this car as a little commuter car for £1,000. It's been brilliant, by the way. Right, I'm going to disconnect this ECU, try and give it a fault, see what happens. Okay, right, I'm going to plug in the iCarsoft and we're going to see now if that plug to the ECU in the engine is going to come up. I haven't got Honda on my iCarsoft. It was the one car that maybe I should have chosen. And if you look at another video I did, these actually can store up to about 10 different cars if you buy the right model. And I chose the cars at the time that I thought I would have, but I didn't have this little Honda. And in hindsight, I wish I chose Honda, but nevertheless, we can still use this. First of all, make sure you turn your key just before the engine cranks, so that you've got all the lights that come on the dash. And here we go, bang, we have got a check system issue. Now this is because no doubt I've pulled that ECU, VSA check system. So the car's recognized it. Let's see obviously if iCarsoft is seeing it, and importantly what it says about it. So from the diagnostic off the main front page here, if I go into the cars that I've got, you can see that I've got BMW, Land Rover, Mercedes, Volkswagen, etc., but I don't have Honda. And as I said, it's one of the cars that I wish I'd selected. But once you program this to take the cars that you're interested in, and you can do up to 10 different cars, have a look at a video in the link, it will show you how to do that. It's set there for life, you can't change it unfortunately. Nevertheless, I'm going to go to this one here, OBDII EOBD, and you can still get some really good information. As I said, this is not selected by Honda. This is just the generic information. Now straight away, look, you can see there's codes found. It's interesting that there's 2 found. I've only actually pulled 1, but what I've realized from experience is if you have a fault, quite often that has a knock-on effect. For example, if you have an ABS fault, it can also give you a knock-on effect with cruise control, for example. Right, so let's go into the codes and see what we can see. So press enter and read the codes, and let's see what it says. So mass or volume airflow sensor at circuit low. Well, I knew that was going to be the case, because with the mass airflow is no longer connected, so the circuit is low. Mass airflow monitors the oxygen, the level of air going into the engine, and unlike the old days with the carburetor, the mass airflow sensor will, out thousands of times every few seconds, will monitor just how much air is going into the engine and give you the perfect balance. Now, and without that sensor, you will have a car that potentially runs quite lumpy. It can run very rich. The car can have very poor fuel economy. Actually, sometimes you can go the opposite way. So importantly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, plug in the airflow sensor, and then I'm going to try and clear the code. If I try and clear it now, it won't allow me to do it, because physically I know that connection is not in place. So let's get that done. Okay, so let's just plug this back in. All done. Okay, that's the sensor plug back in, and let's make sure. I'm going to turn the cycle the key off and on. Let's just see if it comes back on the dashboard. Key on. Right, we don't have a warning light now. Oh, we do. Check system. So it's still seeing it. So what I'm hoping to do now is use my iCarsoft to clear that code, and then we shouldn't get check system come up. Okay, so let's go back, and we're going to go and raise that code. Press enter. Emissions related diagnostic information will be erased. Are you sure you want to continue? Absolutely. Make sure ignition is on with engine off, which it is. Press enter button to continue. So here we go, moment of truth. Talking to vehicle, please wait. Emission related diagnostic information has been erased. There's a nice little demonstration for you then. So the problem's now being resolved. Fault code is now being cleared and I don't see it showing on my dash. So what I like to do now is go back and try and read the fault code once more, just to make sure that it definitely has gone. So let's try and read that fault code. No fault codes found. That's exactly it. So there's a great example. If you're wondering about buying one of these iCarsofts, or even if you've got one and you change your vehicle, don't despair. You can still use it to actually read codes from pretty much any other car. So if you've got a BMW and you want to try and read a Ford, then go into the OBDII menu like I did at the beginning of the video, and you can do exactly what I did. Not only that, it gives you some really good live information. Have a look at this. So let's go down to live data, and in live data you've got these three options, all supported. Well, that's just going to tell you exactly what your car can talk to from the iCarsoft. Custom selected, if you want to go to a specific item straight away, and unit and measure, that's just going to be a metric or imperial. So if I go into imperial, then it would be miles per gallon or miles per hour, depends on the item that you're looking at. Right, so let's go to all selected, talking to the vehicle, and you can see there at the top there's one of 35 things that this iCarsoft can see to the Honda, my little Honda Civic. Down the bottom there, if you start to go down, you've got engine coolant temperature 143. That's just because I'll be driving the car, it's starting to cool down. But let's just do a little test here. If we start the vehicle, we should see the temperature start to go up. There we go, 147. If I put my foot on the revs to get a bit of engine temperature, 149 degrees, 150. So you can see we're getting live data here, which is really handy. At the bottom there you've got short-term fuel trim. If I press the right wheel button on the thumb wheel, it will go to the next group of items you can check. So we've got intake manifold, absolute pressure, engine speed, revolutions per minute, 738. If I put my foot on the revs, you can see that they go up accordingly. And obviously if I was driving along, then we'll be able to get the vehicle speed in miles per hour as well. Ignition timing advanced for cylinder 1 is 11 degrees. Intake air temperature, that's coming in the engine bay, and that one there, airflow rate from mass airflow sensor, is 0.3 pounds per minute. Now this is where we had a fault. I've now plugged the ECU back into the mass airflow sensor, so we all should be good now. Oxygen sensor output voltage, these will fluctuate, and you're looking for the voltage to be going up just by a few 0.1 of a volt there, which looks like it's doing it, and that means that the sensor, which is your oxygen sensor, is behaving correctly there. So you should see a fluctuation in the voltage. Okay, now this one here is quite interesting. Number of warm-ups since DTC's cleared. So this is how many times or how many miles that this car has done since the last time that there was a fault. So if you're actually buying a car and you see that there's very little mileage in this one there, distance traveled since DTC's cleared. If there's very little mileage on that and you happen to have this diagnostic with you when you go and look at a car, it means that somebody's actually just cleared the fault. So it's a good one to be aware of on that. I know when I looked at this before, there was about 8,000 miles. So something happened 8,000 miles ago, but nevertheless, for 8,000 miles, which is what, roughly 12 months worth of driving, there's been no issues with the car. And so on and so on. I'm not going to go through them all. We've got catalyst temperature there, control module voltage 14.2 volts. That's telling me nicely that the car's alternator is working correctly. It tells me that the battery is charging, and importantly, if I turn on things like the overhead lights or the main headlights, if I do that just now, so that's the headlights on, you should see a fluctuation, but it should go back. Rear heater is quite a juicy one, that takes a lot of power. So let's put the rear heater on and see if there's any fluctuation in the voltage. Should drop and then go back up straight away. There you go, 13 and back up to 14.2, I think it was. There it is. I come off the rear heater. There you go, you can see it's going back to its steady state of about 4.2. So there's two things there. You've got your voltage regulator, which does exactly as it sounds. It regulates the voltage and maintains usually around about 14.1 to 14.2 volts. And the alternator, which is charging, needs to make sure that it can maintain that. So if the car battery was low, then there's a good chance either that your alternator wasn't charging correctly or your voltage regulator is away. And the voltage regulator usually sits at the back of the alternator. So I hope that's given you a little idea about whether you think you should buy one of these, and if you're worried about if you've got lucky enough to maybe have 3 cars, but you perhaps bought one of these just for 1 car. Don't worry too much about it, because you can still check the details on the other 2 cars as well. It may not be absolutely the same in-depth menus than if you had actually bought the specific one for those cars, but nevertheless, it can still get you out of trouble. So a couple of people have asked me actually, what happens if your iCarsoft isn't for the particular model of the car? And I hope that this video kind of gives you some confidence that actually it doesn't really matter too much. You can still use this. As I said, it may not be 100% in depth as the genuine Mercedes-Benz or Ford or BMW version of it, but you can still use it and it can still get you out of trouble. I think at the price, that is brilliant. You buy a little OBDII reader, which you can get off eBay for about 20 quid, but it gives you far less information than this does, which has a standard OBDII reader on it. And as you can see, it gives you live data and everything else. It's really pretty good for the money. So look, I hope you found this useful. Thanks for considering subscribing. It's always appreciative. I do mainly diagnostic videos. My name's Groovon, and if you have a look at this little playlist here, it shows you some various vehicles that I've used the iCarsoft on with a lot of success. And this video here, I've got some excellent little car fixes that you may just want to have a look at too. So appreciate you watching. Have a fantastic day. Bye for now.
Let's move on, 'cause it's time to move on.